Why is gay marriage illegal in Japan? I don't understand why it's the only G7 country that still has a ban on gay marriage. It's an especially secular society, and from my understanding is relatively liberal and again, is a developed G7 nation. Why is such a progressed nation still in the past with this issue? From my understanding is relatively liberal. It is not. Japan is incredibly socially conservative. From my understanding is relatively liberal. Japan is one of the most socially conservative industrialized countries on the entire planet. 1. Japan is pretty conservative. The ruling party, Liberal Democratic Party, has been in power almost continuously since its foundation in 1950s. Despite the name, LDP is actually a conservative party. 2. It's not illegal. Instead, it's not recognized by law. Homosexual couples in Japan won't face any charge unlike some other countries. It's just they cannot register marriage. 3. Tokyo has actually legalized same-sex marriage a few years ago, and it's still the only Japanese city that did it. It's an especially secular society, and from my understanding is relatively liberal. PFFFT. Japan is one of the most xenophobic developed countries on earth. They're extremely conservative. The nail that sticks out gets the hammer is a common saying. And they've basically idealized the idea of the American nuclear family to a religious extent. To call them liberal is just wrong. Japan isn't anime. I find it funny when people are shocked to find most Asian counties are considerably more homophobic, misogynistic, etc. than the West. Japan is more or less doing things their way. Their progressive isn't the same as America's progressive. They're also incredibly racist towards migrants, and their work culture is anything but progressive. The thing is, Japan and most countries that are not on the West are not liberal at all. You might be surprised, but most of the world advanced, or not as you put it, are conservative in nature. Gay marriage being legal has not been around for long. The US only legalized it in 2015. The UK allowed civil partnerships from 2005 and marriage from 2014, etc. Because technologically advanced and culturally conservative are not mutually exclusive. TYL that not every developed nation shares Western values. From my understanding is relatively liberal. Japan bans almost all immigration. Just because in the United States we have become more accepting of gay, marigay, and homosexuality, doesn't mean the whole world has done the same. We got places like Saudi Arabia where homosexuality is even a crime. From my understanding is fairly liberal, and you were told this by who exactly? Secular does not imply progressive. It just means non-religious. The Soviet Union was secular. Why is such a progressed nation still in the past with this issue? Because it's not. Japan is extremely conservative in all social aspects. Subreddit name No Stupid Questions. Op asks a question. Majority of responses, well, that was a dumb fucking question. Japan is not liberal. I understand OP's assumption. It has all kinds of anime. Technology. City developments are amazing. Porn is nuts. But at the same time, many ideas and social gestures are pretty conservative. It's a traditional family-oriented patriarchal society which prides itself in its culture, social values and heritage. Lineages, bloodlines and family names are also important. Apart from that, they have a low birth rate problem, and encouraging marriages that don't result in offsprings is the last thing you would want to do. I don't understand why it's the only G7 country that still has a ban on gay marriage. Italy doesn't have gay marriage either. If you think Japan is liberal, you watch too much anime. It's also not legal in the majority of the world. Hell, in America, there's still a lot of people who oppose it and it remains a lightning rod topic. Change is slow. Why are women not allowed to wear comfortable shoes and even glasses in office workplaces? Why are school kids forced to dye their hair black to look more Japanese? There's so many things wrong with Japan. It's interesting and scary. You all seem to be doing a lot of shaming for a subreddit called No Stupid Questions. While their question may be ignorant, that's the whole point of the subreddit. From my understanding, I studied Japanese language and culture for a few years but have never personally been to Japan. Their culture is to fit in. They also place a lot of value around marriage. Their families expect them to get married. I've heard that gay people in Japan will marry each other and just be married as friends. But I DK how true that is. X200B. Anyway, with emphasis on not standing out and fulfilling expectations of marriage, I think that plays a role. But LGBT Japanese people have been trying to get the government to change the laws for years. It's always hilarious to me when Americans talk about how racist, bigoted, sexist our country is, while assuming foreign countries are so much better. Not saying this describes OP per se, but many Americans. In China, Disney made Finn less noticeable on the Star Wars TFA poster because he's black. In many Middle Eastern countries, they imprison or kill LGBT and women for indecency. And yes, in many Asian countries, they are less than accepting of gay marriage. Crossing swords is forbidden for the samurai. I think you've already answered your question, but if anyone here could tell me what it's like visiting Japan as a gay person, I would appreciate it. My partner and I have always talked about going, but I've never been out of my country before and worry about customs while traveling together. It's very progressive in some ways and not others. I think they hold traditional customs very much at heart. A few negative things I can think of are women are not equal in most ways. They have a peasant class. They fully didn't ban child pornography until 2014. Every country has its issues, unfortunately. Edit banned the distribution of CP in 1900, banned the possession of in 2014. You know that Japan's current ruling government also believes they did nothing wrong in World War II. Also, it's pretty bold to assume humanity is on in straight progress from what is now considered conservatism to current-day liberal mentalities. People around the globe and their cultures progress not only in different speeds, but also different directions. Some civilizations in the even ancient pasts held opinions on some matters that would even go too far for in today's age Western liberal or leftist, while sustaining themselves on slavery and imperialism. Maybe in the far future we go full circle. Ban homosexuality again, have an king and toil as serfs, and then view citizen rights as in backwards conservative set of ideas. The rejection of homosexuality in Japan is a relatively recent development. It began to gain traction due to Western influence during the Meiji Restoration. Gay marriage was outlawed in the Constitution written by the Americans. There has been some recent support lately to remove that. Japanese society is incredibly modest. They're a very, very, very repressed culture. They literally have a birth crisis because no one there fucks. Holding hands in public is considered PDA. When a society doesn't discuss sex and hides it, it will have outdated views and laws surrounding it. Basically, no one talks about it, so it doesn't progress.